Alright, hey guys. I'm gonna apologize in the beginning that there are 1 spoilers and 2 cars driving by. So hopefully with my AirPods in it drowns out some of that background noise. But we're gonna go over the 4 books that I got from Target last week. I know I finished 4 books in a week. I don't have much to do at work, but we're gonna go over all of these beautiful books. We have A Happy Place by Emily Henry, and then 3 Coho books. We got All Your Perfects, Reminders of Him, and Maybe Someday. So yeah, warning, there are spoilers for sure. I'm also very picky about my books. There's certain books I like and certain books I don't, and it all usually boils down to one thing. So let's get into it. So let's start with A Happy Place by Emily Henry. Let me tell you, this would be like just a chit chat, like me talking to you, but pretty much this book I cried, and it definitely lived up to the hype that Book Talk and YouTube book reviewers, I know Carrie Murray on YouTube read this, definitely lived up to the hype. And I'm gonna read y'all like my first thoughts that I wrote down. I'm trying to annotate my books. So I said, this book is real. It doesn't BS love and makes an elaborate scheme of love like some other novels. Sometimes love isn't enough, and it portrays this beautifully. Communication of your feelings is key because love looks different in every way. It's hit hard to me because I've seen in life where love isn't always enough, and it matures and it changes. I love the way Emily Henry shows the male protagonist in a way that isn't some desperate longing, but he shows love in a simple way. As in, I want the best for the other person. So, what I was talking about before, one of the main things that I hate about books, especially romance books in the YA type of realm, I feel like this kind of is more of like an adult book, but kind of teeters on a YA novel, is when, one, the female protagonist is like super shy and withdrawn, and the male role is like burly and some badass, perfect guy. But mainly when they fall in love too quickly, and it's so freaking unrealistic. I hate when books are unrealistic. And this is coming from someone that loves fantasy. Like, I love fantasy books. But when love just is like love bombing all at once, I freaking hate that. And Emily Henry, so good. So pretty much you go through like each chapter, how do I describe it? It goes from real life, so you'll see like chapter 2 is real life when they're on vacation. And then the next chapter will be like in the past. So pretty much the whole point of this book is that there's a couple, and they have been together for 8 years, and their love was like a slow boil. It started towards the end of college, and this is like 8 years into the future, but they've been dating throughout this whole time. Everyone thinks they're in love, and all of a sudden, due to certain, I won't spoil everything, due to certain circumstances, he breaks up with her. However, every year their friend group goes on a vacation in Maine, and there's so many bugs. And they decided not to tell anyone about their breakup because they were like running away from reality, but also because they didn't want to tell their friends. They didn't want to ruin their last vacation in Maine as a friend group. Pretty much, I had to spoil the book for myself because I was so freaking nervous that they would not end up together. I had to read the last chapter a little bit early, and I do that a lot with a lot of books. But finally, after you're like, no, like distance from each other, us breaking up was the best thing for us. Finally, at the end, they get back together, and I am so freaking happy. But I'm going to read y'all some of my favorite quotes from the book. So, first one, and this is like repeated a lot, just you. Like, the female protagonist just like says you, like referring to the guy, just like saying that he's the one, like you're the one. No, he says quietly, in every universe, it's you for me, even if it's not me for you. Things change, but we stretch and grow and make room for each other. You belong here. Healing takes time, and so does not healing. Choose how you spend your time wisely. I really like that quote because you are in charge of your own life and your own future, and you get to choose like what you spend your time doing. Are you going to be sad and miserable, or are you going to do what's better for yourself and better everyone else? You fit me, and I was here. Sorry, I was there. Anything difficult to say must be shouted from the rooftops. There really is no happy place. It's all about mindset. Love means constantly saying you're sorry and then doing it better. Want is a kind of thief. It's a door in your heart, and there's symbols. And once you know it's there, you'll spend your life longing for whatever's behind. You're in all the happiest places. So, yeah. I just liked how this didn't BS love, especially in your 20s. Like, people grow up, people change, parents pass away, you get new jobs, you're finding out what job works for you. I think it is like the epitome of trying to find yourself in your 20s, and I love this book. So I would give this probably like a 9 out of 10. There's so many bugs. The only thing that kept me from it was that it was like a slow burn in a good way, but also like it took me a little bit to get into the book, but I did finish this in one day. So take with that what you want. Okay. Now I have 3 Colleen Hoover books, and I think I'm going to start out with my least favorite and work up to my favorite. So unfortunately, Maybe Someday is my least favorite out of the 3. And this is a good example of, especially Colleen Hoover, of fast-burning love that in a super unrealistic way. So pretty much what this book is about a girl named Sydney who dates her boyfriend. I don't even remember his name because he was, Hunter. He was so irrelevant. But pretty much, she finds out that he is cheating on her with her best friend and roommate Tori. And then she moves in with a mysterious guitar player that lives in the same apartment complex across the street or like next door or something. And it turns out that this guitar player is deaf and has a girlfriend. And throughout the whole book, pretty much Sydney's cheating with the guy, what's his name? Ridge. Is cheating with Ridge while he has a girlfriend. And she's like, oh, I don't want to be a Tory. Like, I'm not someone that's the other girl. And Ridge is like, I'm not someone that cheats on my girlfriend. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. So here are some notes I wrote. I loved it. And I said I loved it only because I finished in a day. If I finish a book in a day, that pretty means that I liked the book to a certain extent that I couldn't put it down. And I think I couldn't put this down because it was kind of just all over the place there were just constant changes that I had to just keep reading to see what was going to happen next. However, slightly unrealistic. I mean, what are the chances that you're going to write the lyric? First of all, get cheated on by your boyfriend to move in with some deaf guy who has a band that you're writing lyrics for now. It's just very unrealistic. However, someone is looking at me and I don't know what they want. They just gave me the middle finger. All right. Cool. That made my day. My biggest thing is that it tried to romanticize cheating, and I'm also drinking, I'm not sure if I said this before, but this is the Isopure Tropical Punch protein powder. It's so good. I don't usually like milkshake based protein powder for the summer. It just makes me feel so heavy. So this is like a lemonade version. It's so good. There's about, I want to say I put like 30 grams of protein in this. Anyway, yeah, I try to romanticize cheating, and I am the biggest person against cheating. Like, I think it's, I've never been in that situation, but if I was, I would not do it. No. And it was like, I want you, I need you, you're my love in another universe type of thing, but I don't know, wasn't my thing. And I said it was almost a great book. Almost. I did like the way that they portrayed being hearing impaired or deaf or completely deaf. And it was very sensitive to that topic, which I did enjoy. It didn't, like, some people who are deaf, their words are not as clear. It never made fun of certain aspects of someone who might be hearing impaired, which I really enjoyed. And it brought some light onto the subject as well. So that I liked. Sydney is a little judgmental. This is the main character, Sydney. In the very first page, she calls someone a whore for, yeah. And then she calls someone a bitch because she wears a Hooters outfit. So, I don't know. I thought she was a little judgmental for someone that's helping someone else cheat on their girlfriend. So maybe someday I give it, I read it in a day, so I'm going to give an extra point. A 6 out of 10. Not the best, not horrible, but just a little unrealistic. Alright. Oh, I also have my quotes that I enjoyed from it. Let me read y'all those. He doesn't have to verbalize it when his eyes clearly state it for him. I think that's a nice way of saying, like, your eyes are a window to your soul. Like, it just shows, like, how much emotion you have through your eyes. Another quote that I liked is, lines are drawn, but then they fade. For her I bend, for you I break. Again, romanticizing cheating, but it was written in a way that was very nice. Having her so close feels as though we've created our own personal space, and nothing from outside our world can make its way in, and nothing from inside our world can make its way out. I think that's a good way of putting, like, when you're with someone you love, literally everything outside of what you're doing just fades away. So I thought that was a nice way that she described it. And then, a life of mediocrity is a waste of life. This one I love. That was beautifully written. I do think that if you're going to live your life in a mediocre way and not take risks, then it's a waste. So that's why I made this vlog. It's a risk. Anyway, next we have Reminders of Him. Great book. Great book. I didn't write initial reaction to this one, and this one I read like a week ago now. I cried during this. So pretty much what this is about this woman named Kenna who gets in a car wreck with her boyfriend Scotty, and he dies. She gets sent to jail because she had alcohol in her system, and she, like, technically left the crime for whatever reason. But then she goes to prison, has a baby in prison that gets taken away from her. She comes back to the outside world and winds up falling in love with Scotty's best friend. Pretty much she's fighting for, like, visitation rights for her daughter because she also finds out that there's so many bugs, that the guy that she's in love with now also takes care of her daughter with Scotty's parents / grandparents, whatever. So this one, I don't know how else to say it other than the fact that it made me cry, because just, like, thinking about a daughter being, like, ripped away from you is insane to me. Like, feeling that pain. But also just like she genuinely wants the best for her daughter, but people think she's such a bad person. And I literally, like, it was such a war reading this, because I'm like, dude, she's not a bad person. Like, give her a damn chance. I kept thinking that during this book. But yeah, this one, 8.5 out of 10. 9 out of 10. Because I also read this one in a day. But let me read you some quotes that I liked from it. There was before you and there was during you. For some reason, I never thought there would be an after you. And I think that's how it is with a lot of relationships. Like, you always think this is the one, this is it. You never think that it's not going to last forever. This is long. People say you fall in love, but fall is such a sad word when you think of it. Falls are never good. You fall on the ground, you fall behind, you fall to your death. Whoever was the first person to say they fell in love must have already fallen out of it. Otherwise, they'd have called it something much better. That, like, are you kidding me? Like, Coho. A Colleen Hoover book had that quote. And some Colleen Hoover books, like, maybe someday it's a hit or miss, but that was a beautiful quote about love. This is funny. Is that a fucking pigeon? Once you read the book, you'll realize where that quote comes from, and it's a gut-wrencher at the end. We're all just a bunch of sad people doing what we have to do to make it to tomorrow. And that reminds me of that, like, weird, this is so weird, that weird SpongeBob scene where it's like, you see that one guy just go through his daily life, like, he wakes up, goes to work, hangs out with his kids, goes home, goes to sleep, redoes it. And that's, like, something that personally I want to avoid at all costs. Like, I never want my life to be stagnant. I always want to, like, just not, I want to fill it with happy moments. And this goes to my next quote. Happiness isn't some permanent thing we're all trying to achieve in life. It's merely a thing that shows up every now and then, sometimes in tiny doses that are just substantial enough to keep us going. Beautiful quote. Again, happiness is so fleeting, and I feel like so many of us take it for granted. But, like, find what makes you happy and, like, cling to it. Write it down. Enjoy it. This makes me happy, so I'm going to keep doing it. So you decide right now, right here, are you going to live in your sadness or are you going to die in it? And I took this in a way that connected to me. Like, I've had depression before, and I feel like, and it's something that, like, my therapist talked to me about, when you're sad, you get to choose to be sad sometimes. And I hate to put it that way, but you can pull yourself out of a mindset if you dedicate your mind to it. So, I don't know. It's something that I've, like, been living by. Like, am I gonna let myself drown in sadness and whatever from it? Or am I gonna pull myself out of it? So that's a really good mindset to have. My next book, I gave that, like a 9, 8.5-ish rating. Okay, all your perfects, let me just tell you, I didn't highlight, I didn't annotate, I didn't write a single thing in this book, like y'all can see, because I would highlight this whole book. This whole book was a masterpiece. This one, I give a 9.5 out of 10. And the only reason why I'm doing that is because it was a short read. Like, if you compare book sizes, like, it is a thinner book. And I finished this in 4 hours. So I was pissed that it ended. Water break. Because it was a gut-wrencher. I sobbed reading this book. So pretty much it's about a woman named Quinn and her husband named Graham. And it's another, like, present one chapter, past one chapter. But pretty much she meets her now husband through Graham's girlfriend and Quinn's fiance. They were cheating on each other with each other. that's how they meet. So they met in heartbreak. And it was a slow boil, this is a good Colleen Hoover slow boil book, because they did not just like fall in love. Well, he fell in love with her immediately, but she was almost like hesitant a little bit. So that's something that I enjoyed. But pretty much you fast forward into the future and you think they're so in love, but their marriage is like literally falling apart. They call it a Category 5 hurricane. Even in one chapter, I think Graham calls it Category 6 hurricane moment in their marriage. But pretty much the marriage is falling apart because they're dealing with infertility. And first of all, the way that she described the feeling of infertility is just gut-wrenching. If you didn't know, I'm adopted from China. My adopted parents couldn't have biological children. And so it hits home to me, because it puts in perspective like how much my parents love me, like how much they wanted children and not necessarily just be pregnant. Like they wanted to love like a human being as much as they love my sister and I. It's insane. And this whole book is just a quote. Like, it is so quotable, it's insane. Tearjerker. I don't even know what to say about it other than you have to read this. Out of all, like a lot of Colleen Hoover books, again, hit or miss, this one was 1000% bullseye hit. I'm going to try to get Abby to read it because I think she'd actually enjoy this one. But it just shows, thank you, Trey. It just shows like how much dedication goes into a marriage, because again, sometimes love isn't enough, going back to a happy place. But I think it also, one thing that I pulled from it that was like a little marriage lesson is that it's not that you can't give up in your marriage. It's that the both of you can't give up at the same time. And they go on to like explain that like you can give up on your marriage, that's fine, but you need the other person to still be in it to pull you out of that funk. And I thought that was so beautiful, because then in the book, at one point, you think that they're both done with it. They're both given up. But then you find out that Graham still, he comes back and he pulls Quinn out of it. And God bless, sobbed reading this book. But yeah, I can't even quote it because again, the whole book is quotable. But yeah, those are my reviews of all my beautiful books that I read this week. And yes, I do read most books in 1 to 2 days. I don't have anything to do during work. So yeah, stay tuned. I just finished 1,000 Boy Kisses. I don't think y'all are going to like my review on that. But I got a Sarah Dessen book. I got Daisy Jones and the Six. And yeah, y'all stay tuned for another book review. This is my first one. I hope y'all enjoyed. And have a beautiful day. Get to reading.